A band director can tell their band to play mezzo forte. How do you tell that to the body? You're building a language and vocabulary of understanding of this instrument here.
If you're a marching band director or instructor and you want to get the most out of your performers, you need to start from a good foundation. And today we have a great video for you to give you some helpful starting points for your band, color guard, or any marching performers to get them ready to move and play together safely and effectively. J.W. Peppers created a landing page dedicated to musicians' wellness, where we've been talking with musicians and instructors from all backgrounds in music to find out tips and information on how to stay healthy while playing and performing at high levels. You can check out that landing page here, and we have links in the description as well. Playing music and performing can be a physically taxing exercise, especially when it comes to marching band. And if you've seen a modern competitive marching group, either a marching band, an indoor drum line, an indoor color guard, or a drum corps in the last 20 years, the one thing that has progressed exponentially in that time are the demands on the bodies of these performers. All of this while also still playing an instrument or spinning a flag or rifle at a very high level as well. Preparing the body for these insane shows is something that has not come along as fast as the activity has moved with its demands on these performers. And one person that's been trying to get more of this information out to the world is Vincent Thomas, who's a professional dancer and choreographer and knows a little bit about the marching world, having been the first ever caption head for Carolina Crown Drum and Bugle Corps. He continued in that position for 5 years, and he's worked with countless other drum corps like the Cadets, the Blue Stars, the Colts, and Boston Crusaders. He's also marched in Winter Guard with 308 and currently is teaching 2 different world-class indoor guards, Onyx and George Mason. Vincent's also a trombone player and was a music ed major in college, so he has a very good perspective on all fronts of the marching activity. He's also a professor of dance at Towson University, and this is where we were able to catch up with him and talk with him about his masterclass that he gives to directors. A lot of the amazing things that you're seeing from these performers today comes from traditional dance prep and warm-up. Vincent has a great session that we're going to share with you today so that you can implement some of these techniques with your group to help them be better prepared to move and even possibly avoid injury. Vincent's provided us with documentation for this as well that's linked in the description, and while you're there, take a second to subscribe so that you don't miss any of the other content that we have coming up.
The session is called Ready, Set, Move, Preparing the Physical Instrument. And it's really all about getting the body ready to do the rigorous marching drill and movement and dance that we ask marching members to do. And I think in this activity, because of the military history of it and the uniformity and the precision, that's where some members get injured because their bodies are being forced to go into a place without the proper technique or proper process and training of getting it there. I have to go back to when I started teaching Carolina Crown. I insisted that the horn line and the percussion line were a part of getting their bodies prepared. So I've been thinking about this ready, set, move for a long time and seeing the benefits of it throughout this historical time of Carolina Crown. To see where they are now and to know that they are in the soil of what we started back in 1989. So it was a value of the organization to the other caption heads to know that yes, the members have to march at rapid pace, jazz run, jazz sprint, and also do different shapes and things with their bodies. It was a value that they understood that they needed training to do that. So every morning I had all of the members in a movement class, a dance class, conditioning, warming up, learning technique of the body, and then moving across the floor, which was attached to their marching fundamentals. So they were learning different movement passages across the floor and then going right into marching technique. So I related to, with the band directors, asking them, how long do you take to warm up the horns before you play the show? How long does the drum line warm up in their rudiments before they play the show? And then to ask, how long do you give them to warm up their bodies in order to do what they have to do in the show? And oftentimes, there's not equity amongst all of that. And so it gets the band directors to rethink and to reorganize their time and their practice and process time in order to get to the end of the season more effectively. As a new band director or as a band director on the first day of your band camp or your season, I would suggest not to start with the visual of the page one of the drill, but to start with who's in the room, who's standing in front of you, who's standing around you, and to know that each body that is in that space is different. There are different heights, there are different body mass on bones, there's different range of motion. I would also embrace process and practice, knowing that to get to the end result at the end of your season is going to be a process of rehearsal or practice. I like the P's. And letting go of perfection, because in my opinion, that's slightly elusive. To understand that through process and practice, it gets more to the most ideal way of something being. So the first aspect is the warm-up, what I call the body scale warm-up. And body scale meaning I want to know the articulation in the body parts. It's just like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That scale, where is it in the body? So I like to work down from up, going down. So maybe do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, working from the top of the head all the way through the body, knowing the different parts of the body and what is the possible range of motion for that. And in this first time, you're watching and you're gathering information, not trying to get each member to be exactly the same on the first day, but to allow that freedom of movement to happen within their capacity and watching for that, and then you know how to build it and to advance it, make it more intermediate, make it more advanced as the strength training, the strength builds within that process. I also use a developmental format called BrainDance, which is developed by Anne Green Gilbert, an amazing educator in Seattle, Washington. It is based on the 8 developmental patterns of a healthy life, the first year of life. Fortunately, we still move through those patterns, and they show up in the marching pageantry. When you're marching, the lower body is moving. Sometimes when the arms are moving, that's cross-lateral, because maybe the right leg goes forward, the left arm goes forward. It's those simple patterns. So when we talk about projection and communicating to your audience, it's about moving the visual as well as the body through this wider kinesphere. So I use the BrainDance as a mechanism to help inform the body scale warm-up. And those 8 components are breathing or breath, tactile, skin on skin, core distal, pulling the body in and then stretching out to distal space, head and tail, warming up the spine. We do that using cat and cow, but there are other ways of doing that as well. The understanding of upper body and lower body. And this is when I bring in the words mobilization and stabilization, where you stabilize one part of the body and mobilize the other part of the body. There's body side, dividing the body in half and stabilizing one side as another side is moving. The next one is cross-lateral, moving through the midline of the body, crossing the midline of the body. And then the last component is vestibular, allowing the head to be off its central axis. And that can be done with tilting or swinging or spinning or being upside down. And that's good for your proprioception as well, and your balance system. So those 8 components are woven through the body scale warm-up. So after the body scale warm-up, and the bodies have, the heart rate is up, the muscles are more available to stretch and you get more range of motion, we then go into a technique practice. And I use a basic dance technique vocabulary that is taken from the ballet vocabulary. Those basic technique vocabulary words that I use are plie, which simply means to bend with that vertical alignment of the body, that awareness of that. Eleve, which means to rise, and I like to think about the metaphor of an elevator. An elevator is different from an escalator. So the body will just rise or float up and back down. And releve, to bend and then to rise, to bend and to rise, which helps with strengthening calf muscles and stretching the calf muscles as well. The next one that I introduce is tendu, which means to stretch. And we do that with the lower body in a few different positions, in parallel and in rotation of the legs for turned out first position. After that, we'll do dégagé, which means to disengage. And the dégagé is a very close cousin to the tendu. It's just more energy reaching out to disengage the toes from the floor and reaching the leg into space. After that, we will do rond de jambe, which means a circle of the leg, and simply a circle of the leg. And this is where I use the body half, dividing the body in half. I stabilize one side to allow mobility of the other side to move. Then we will take some battements and then some jumps, working on the feet and ankles as well. I would say that doing this also brings a mindfulness to the human being. And so that to go in eleve or releve and to find the balance needed, required for that, which is all about the strength of the legs and the imagery of the head floating, finding more space between the sky and the earth to let the body, the bones just float. So a lot of times I don't use the technical French terminology at first. I just want them to do the action. So the action is bend your knees, stretch your knees. Later, after that is introduced, then I will introduce, so what is that technical term for that? So for me, it's less important to speak the French terminology than it is to understand what the action the body is doing. And so in the technique portion, I also include improvisation prompts, just to give them a moment of relaxation, of freedom. And the improvisational prompts can also be attached to the theme of the show. If you're doing a show about water, maybe you want to get the members to play moving like they're in water, and maybe the water is warm, and how will that affect moving through water that's cold? So it gives the director and the creative team an opportunity to play, imagine, find more possibilities and ways of moving, that the wisdom of the room is coming from the members. After the warm-up and the technique portion, at the end of rehearsal, we would do a cool-down. And the cool-down is primarily to allow the muscles of the body to take deeper breaths and to find some ending stretch, to say thank you to the body, so that muscles don't cramp up when they just leave rehearsal and go sit in a car for 20 minutes. They'll sleep better. They'll come back the next day with their body more available and probably less sore. So the cool down and water is really important. A key thing for directors to understand is that the instrument that the students play drum, woodwinds, brass, percussion is only an extension of the body. So once they understand the fullness of their body, the instrument is a part of that landscape. So it automatically becomes an expressive entity, just like the flag, rifle, and saber.
This information is extremely valuable. One thing that I said to Vincent during the filming of this video, who would have thought that the way to open up and expand marching band would be to focus on the movement? And yet, I can say for sure back when I marched and even when I was an instructor and a marching band director, I didn't spend enough time on this, and it definitely showed. Not only does this provide an amazing foundation for how students can move, play, or perform on the field, this is getting young people in touch with their own bodies and understanding their own flexibility and mindfulness. And it is yet another reason why participating in music can help in so many other facets of everyday life. If you like this video, then you might like one of these videos as well. We have videos about repertoire, or here is a video about things that you didn't even know that we sell at Pepper. Go watch that. We'll see you on the next one.